Now for the 15th of Nisan. So let's take the example of prayer that's recited with kavanah, with intent, or Torah that we're doing right now, right? That you're doing it with kavanah lishma, which means for its own sake, for the sake of not self-aggrandizement, but for the sake of connecting. So what happens is that kavanah, that we want to be connected to God through what we're doing, right? And that desire to be connected is the concept of love, and not to be disconnected is the concept of fear of disconnect, right? When you love somebody, you have a fear of being disconnected from that person. And that's important because sometimes, you have maybe a negative feeling in your heart towards that loved one. But if you fear the disconnect from them, you be careful what you say. If you don't have the fear of disconnect, then you won't, then you'll just say what's on your mind. And you know what will happen? You'll be disconnected. So here, we're talking about the kavanah is clothed in the very letters of the speech of prayer or the speech of Torah that we're engaged in right now, right? And therefore that kavanah, that intent of being bonded, connected, and not being disconnected, elevates the words of prayer or the words of Torah that we're engaged in right now to the 10 divine attributes above. Where? The world of Yetzirah or the world of Beriah? Based on what we've learned previously at great length, what is your motivator? What's motivating you to learn right now in kavanah, in intent? Meaning, two ways that we can be motivated. One is because we intellectually understand the greatness of what we're engaged in, the greatness of our relationship to God, and the greatness of the mitzvah of studying Torah, for example, right now. And we think about that, we meditate upon it, so much so that it actually brings a feeling in the heart of love that you want now to learn in a way that this is you're being bonded and connected, united, one with God. And again, the awe or of the awesomeness of this, also, which is greater than fear. Actually, there's fear and awe, two different levels, which we'll get into later more. Fear is just disconnect. Awe is like awesome. Well, yeah, we'll get into it more later. So then your kavanah, your intent, will bring your active study Torah or prayer all the way to the world of Beriah, the world of divine comprehension, because it was based on your comprehension that led to a actual palpable feeling in your heart. Now that's a very high level, and seldom will we be able to produce that. But what we can produce is that we have a hidden love in our soul, in our heart, that we want to be connected to God, and we reveal the natural, native soul's desire to be connected and not to be disconnected. That's not intellectual, that's instinctual to our very soul. Now, the problem, of course, is that we have a body and an animal soul that has its own agenda and it covers over, and therefore that's why it's called the hidden love, because of the body and animal soul that kind of dictates. So we need to find that place within me, that instinctual desire to be connected. Not because I understand, not because I get it, but because, comprehend it intellectually, but because that is the native state of my soul, wants that connection. And when I'm attuned to that, and I allow that to guide me, then I have the love and the fear / awe of God. That is the kavanah that allows now my Torah study to ascend to the world of Yetzirah, the world of formation, the world of divine emotion, right? Instinctual emotion, which is the case over here. Now what happens is when it goes to that place, right, to the divine attributes in fact are one with God. And the light that it produces is so powerful that our soul cannot experience it today. We can't experience it in the physical world. It's too powerful for our soul to experience. Not even a ray of it today. A ray of it we will get in Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, after our time here, after 100, after we live our life here. But when will we get it? That full experience of what we are doing right now, right? The full experience we will get in the end of days, when the material world and our physical reality will be so refined that the glory of God will be revealed to all flesh to behold. We will then get that splendor. Right now, the light is too great. It's like, a very powerful sunny day. When you look at the sun, it's blinding. So that likewise, this is blinding, and we're not capable of that experience now. But in the times of Mashiach, we will have that. In a footnote, the Alter Rebbe says, but what we do have now, it's interesting, it's in a footnote, not in the regular teachings, is that by doing a mitzvah now, what we do in the divine attributes is that we make a coalescing between the divine kindness and the divine judgment, Gevurah. And there's coalescing that if there is above any kind of judgment against us that could be reflected in this world in something that might be painful, difficult, challenging. So there's a coalescing of the divine kindness with the divine judgment that it's called sweetening of the severities. And that we accomplish now through the mitzvah that we do. That we sweeten. If there's a severity above that dictates that there should be something in my life down here that might be difficult, might be painful. Not bad, but painful, right? Through the act of the mitzvah that we're doing right now, with the kavanah, with the intent, with the mindfulness, or the awareness at least, we sweeten that severities. Very interesting. Now, this explains why fear/love, and by the way, the concept of fear we're going to get more into shortly, but the concept of fear/awe are figuratively called wings. Two wings that make the bird fly. Now, hold on one second. Let's see if I have here. If you take God's name, it's amazing. And you think of a bird. You have the head, the body, and the two wings. So God's name is made from a yud, a hey, and a vav, and a hey. So if you take the yud, hold on one second. I don't know where I put it. I had printout. Okay, you have to picture it in your own mind. You take the yud of God's name. It looks like a head. It is like a stick figure of a bird I'm making for you now. You got a yud. It's a stick. It's the head. The vav is the body of the bird, and the two heys are the two wings of the bird. So God's name is embodied in the bird, represented by the archangel Metatron. Matat in Hebrew. That's what it is symbolic of. Okay? Interesting point. Now, that's also a footnote. The wings of a bird are not the main component of the bird. Life does not depend on the wings at all. Right? As a matter of fact, the Mishnah implies that a bird whose wings were removed is still kosher. Rather, the main parts are the head and the rest of the body. The wings merely serve the head and the body, enabling them to fly. So that's the metaphor. I mean, that's the What is the analog? What is it teaching us? Likewise, when it comes to Torah and mitzvahs, right? We're doing Torah study right now. The essential thing is the study itself that creates a union by the fact that we're doing God's will. We're learning Torah right now. That's God's will. And when we do that with wings, so in other words, that's the body. That's the main thing. That's the body of the bird, right? The head and the body, which represents me. The head and the body of me doing the act of study, or the act of prayer, just saying the words, or the act of putting on tefillin, do that at Chol but or the act of being charitable, just the act itself without any mindfulness, without any intent. So that's the supernal will that we're doing. At the same time, there's wings, which are the fear/awe and love, the two wings, that they merely elevate the Torah and mitzvahs to a place where they can be united with God through the world of Yetzirah, Beriah, as we explained earlier, that the divine attributes are bound up in one with God, that they will, through that intent, bring me to be bound up in one with God, or to reveal that connection. Okay, that was for the 15th of Nisan. Let me see, any questions? I'm not sure, Rachel, what you mean over here with the promise of the rainbow is the sign to show the different power to focus on pure intent. I'm not certain what that means. Okay. Just looking for some questions here. Rachel's asking if we call Torah the waters of life, as we can bring down the upper waters, we must have the pure intent to bring forth the transformation of each of us to be brought to the next world as when we think with the universal mind. Okay, I'm not clear on what that question was, or that was a statement maybe. If it's a question, then put the question marks. Elise, if we're not in perfect harmony, how much does it affect the mitzvah? Excellent question. It doesn't matter where you're at. If you're discombobulated and you still do the mitzvah because that's what God wants you to do, the fact that you're not into it, well, if you have the kavanah, the intent that through this you are connecting to God, then even if you're discombobulated, even if you're like, sometimes we feel a wreck. We just don't feel like learning Tanya, or we just don't feel like praying, or we just don't feel like being charitable, or whatever, right? You know what? Just do it. Just do it. Because in the act itself there's a connection, and the intent also brings which is a mindfulness, even when we're just kind of not in harmony. That's okay. Excellent question. Thank you for that, Elise. I think I got everybody. Okay. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Excellent question. Actually, that's very important because, let's be very honest and frank. There's so many times that we're just not in the mood to do a mitzvah, to study Torah. And it's at those times is the real kind of statement about us that can we transcend ourselves. And even if we don't feel connected, it doesn't matter. We are connected through the acts of a mitzvah, through the study of Torah, even if we don't feel it. Even if we don't have intent for connected, all the more so with intent, with kavanah, that we have a little mindfulness of, or an awareness that through this, I'm, that what's motivating me is so I should be connected with God. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That was very important. Okay.